Hello, everyone, and welcome to Daily Space for today, 14 February 2009. I am your host, Annie Wilson, and chat should be appearing, and it's not. So, yeah, let's just do the thing, shall we? I'm going to have, as soon as I find. Oh no, I think I broke everything. I think I did. Oh no, I know what happened. Okay. Give me 1 second, and I will fix the thing. There we go. I fixed the thing. Oh, did I say 2009? I meant 2019. Oh, Jesus. Anyways, yay! Thanks for the bits, Linnies! I don't have doggy cam set up for Daily Space, so, yeah. Here are the Cheerios. Puck's already ready. Hey, Puck, can you speak? Since I can't see you. Come on, speak. Come on. There you go. Good enough. All right. And I made it rain for the dogs. So, there we go. Let's try this again. Hello, and welcome to Daily Space. Susie, I am so sorry. Hello, and welcome to Daily Space for today, 14 February 2019. I am your host, Annie Wilson, and the dogs today are just going to be off screen. So I have 2 news stories for you today, and a bunch of pretty pictures. So let's get at it. As soon as I find the thing. It's here. Somewhere it's here. Okay, I found the thing. Okay, so I need more monitors. So, some of you may recognize this symbol on your screen. This is Iran Space Agency's logo. Why am I showing this to you again? Because they had another launch, their second launch attempt in about a month. So, okay, cool, they had a launch, but it didn't go the greatest. That's your spoiler alert. Iran had a launch on February 5th. The suspected payload was Dosti, which means friendship in Persian, or Farsi, a remote sensing satellite on a smaller rocket than their last launch attempt. Unfortunately, it failed after liftoff. So, how do we know it failed? On this image, over here, I don't know if it captures my mouse or not. It does. Good. On this image over here, there's the shadow of the rocket. There's stuff on the launch pad. There's a lot of activity, a lot of vehicles. I think this might actually be like their launch center. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And in this image, you can see some scarring on the launch pad and a bunch of water runoff, which is suspected to be from washing down after the launch. So these images are from Digital Globe, and because Iran had announced that they were going to launch a rocket, a bunch of satellite companies have been imaging the same spot over and over and over and over again, just to see what's going on. So we can see that the rocket took off from these images, but records indicate that there are no new spacecraft in orbit. The U.S. military maintains a record of space objects, including spacecraft. So yeah, we have evidence that launch happened, but nothing new is in space. So this is the third launch of this particular rocket configuration, the Sapphire 1 Bravo Plus, of which there's been a single success. That was 4 years ago. Overall, for the Sapphire family of rockets, there's been 7 launches with 4 confirmed successes. That's around a 57% success rate. For the Smigor family, which is that larger rocket that they launched about a month ago, there's been 3 launches with only 1 mission success, and that would have been the first orbital test flight. So why is this important? 1, space is hard. Space is really, really hard. Iran has had 10 launches since 2004 with 5 confirmed successful missions. That's about a 50% success rate overall. While not great, it's non-zero. 2. Number 2. This is proof that Iran is still working on gaining access to space despite all the international disapproval. Maybe not international disapproval, but despite pushback from U.S. politics and U.S. government and so on and so forth. 3. No, this was not an ICBM. An ideal ballistic missile would be set up and launched before anyone even noticed. We were able to capture images of setup and of like the days leading up to the setup and the days after the launch. So if you wanted to launch an ICBM, you wouldn't want anybody to know that you were launching an ICBM. So rockets take much longer to prepare for flight, and obviously with satellite technology, a couple companies plus the US government were able to track preparations to set up for this rocket. So I see a couple questions popped in during this. Hanny's asking, where do they launch from? I have looked that up and I don't remember exactly where the launch pad is. I know that the Sapphire and the Sapphire and then the larger rocket are launched from 2 different launch sites. Larry Weird and Proud asks, is the U.S. military the source for your news today? Actually, no. The source today is from Spaceflight Now. I will copy the link. And I liked this source because they actually interviewed somebody that knows more about ICBMs and so on and so forth. And they get into why this is not an ICBM, why this is not proof that Iran is working on their ICBM technology, etc. And Google's putting it through its thing, and I'll try to get a plain text one. Paste. There we go. Hanny's Warp asks, what are they planning to launch into space? Do they have a government-funded NASA? Yes. They have ESA, which is Iran's space agency, and it is government-funded. And right now they're just trying to launch satellites, really. The satellite that would have been the payload for this, they had announced earlier in the month and late last month that they were getting ready to launch it. And there has been 0 things on ESA's website. And by ESA, I mean India Sierra Alpha, not Echo Sierra Alpha. So ISA. Let's go with ISA. There's been nothing on ISA's website. There's been nothing on their Instagram about the payload or the mission. Which, unlike the last launch where they had a bunch of photos of the satellite that they launched and some data on, what the satellite was able to send back, there's been nothing. So yeah, really, they're really just trying to launch their own satellites for remote sensing, etc., because I don't think they have access to anybody else's space stuff, to put it quite frankly. I know some of their long-term goals include putting up their own space station. I believe they want to try to send a human mission to the moon. I believe they eventually just want to get humans into space. So, go with them. But they're doing it pretty independently from everybody else, so they don't have the benefit of being able to get, assistance from other countries. So yeah, space is hard. Space is really, really hard. All right. Now on to something a little bit lighter. This is a DARPA spacecraft. You've probably heard of R2-D2, but how about R3-D2? So R3-D2 stands for R3-D2 stands for Radio Frequency Risk Reduction Deployment Demonstration, which again is developed by DARPA. And yes, Hanny, it is totally an origami kind of deployment. So once this is in orbit, it will deploy a membrane antenna made of Captain. It's a bit more than 2 meters in diameter. So there's not a whole lot of stuff for scale, but from this point to this point, it's 2.25 meters. Nobody asked your opinion on this. Really, nobody asked your opinion. So 2.25 meters diameter, boom, boom. It's essentially a proof of concept, and will test different aspects of launching and using a membrane antenna in space. So yeah, this whole big thing folds down into this, and that's pretty cool. It will be launched by Rocket Lab in New Zealand soonish. There's no exact date yet. It's expected to be late February. So why this is important? Oh, I see somebody saying, what's the material? The material is literally called Captain. That's Kilo Alpha Papa Tango Oscar November. It's made by DuPont and I had found a Wikipedia entry about the material itself, and it's a polyamide, if I believe correctly. It is indeed a membrane. It's really, really thin. Just think of it like somewhere between tin foil, aluminium foil, and plastic wrap. That kind of thing. I think I read on somewhere that it was like tissue thin. So, yeah, it's pretty darn thin. So why is this important? If it's successful, this will allow for smaller, cheaper, faster to launch communication satellites that are capable of handling high bandwidth. We all want high bandwidth. Hi, spacetv.net. This is R3-D2, and with a Captain membrane, this is going to be a proof of concept. And yeah, we're going to launch it into space. Well, we're not going to launch it. Rocket Lab's going to launch it. And I fully admit that I chose this based solely on its name. R3-D2, launched by Rocket Lab? Come on. For a second, I actually had to go and look up to make sure it wasn't one of Rocket Lab's, like, kind of silly but amazing mission names. No, this is not a solar sail. This is actually going to be an antenna. They're looking for better, cheaper ways to handle high bandwidth with satellites, because we all want more bandwidth. Hanny's asked, what is Captain's use in space? I believe it's been used as some space insulation. I don't really remember off the top of my head. I didn't really do a deep dive into it. And yes, that's correct. Very weird and proud. This is not a story from The Onion. This is real life. Super Cowboys 75 asks, could they use this design as a solar sail? Yes. By this design, I'm assuming you're talking about the origami folding that gets it into this container that has no real... I have no idea how big this container is. I know it weighs about 150 kilograms. But yeah, they're taking that and squishing it down into a thing. So yeah, it could potentially. Let me clarify. I think it could be used as a solar sail, but I'm not an expert. So take that with a grain of salt. I do not know how large this container is. I know it weighs about 150 kilograms. Obviously, if this is 2.25 meters across, and I think this is actually the thing at the bottom. So, yeah, that might actually be the thing at the bottom. Because if I look at it, so here's the, it might be hard to see, but here's some supports for the antenna, and I think these are the same supports folded up here. And here, down here, I see some black things, and that's some black things. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to be very big, but it's apparently very heavy. Which, you know, sometimes it's how it works. Yeah, I kind of wish I did know how large it was, like the actual package size. But 2.25 meters, that's a couple people maybe stacked on top of each other. So I'm also trying to convert meters to yard, or meters to things my brain understands in size. So let's go with, for US viewers, a meter is about the same size as a yard. So we're talking under 2.5 yards, which really isn't that big. Fenring asks, what is this light sail going to prove if the base is so heavy? So this is not a light sail. The membrane is going to be used as an antenna. So I'm still processing in my head. Give me a second. This is not going to be used as a light sail. This is just going to be used as an antenna. The whole concept of using this membrane and the origami technique as a light sail, I believe, is feasible, but this as itself is just going to be used as a communications satellite. And if it works and it can handle high bandwidth, well, we're probably going to see a whole lot more of these. And I'm not really seeing any other questions about this. So I'm going to flip over onto our pretty pictures. So yeah, 2 news stories, and I figured I'd end on something light. So we're gonna look at some pictures of hearts in space, because it is Valentine's Day here in the US. So this is the Heart Nebula. And it's a little difficult to see, but you know, there's one half, here's the other half, and if that doesn't look very, very clear, here's the same object processed a different way, potentially with different filters. The heart comes through much, 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 much more strongly than this, or in this one. I think it's pretty. And then we don't just see hearts, you know, in nebula. We see them on planets sometimes. These are all pictures from Mars. These were taken by the Mars Orbital Camera from Mars Global Surveyor. They were released this day ago, 15 years. This day, 15 years ago. Hanny's asked, is this nebula a former system or making planets? It was a planetary nebula, I believe. So, a former system. So yeah, these are all hearts on Mars. These are a small selection of the hearts that have been found on Mars. And yeah, you can see pretty clearly all of the heart shapes. And this over here on the right is my favorite, because you have a crater and then you have a teeny tiny heart inside of it. Hanny says, see, the universe loves us. I know. So we have planetary nebula, some hearts on planets, and yes, Pluto has a heart too. But because that's a relatively recent image. I wanted to pull up stuff that wasn't super common, except that many of you may have seen this image before, but not rotated like this. This is the antenna galaxies? No! I should have silenced my phone. I apologize. So this is the antenna galaxies, and yeah, just how the galaxies are interacting, they kind of form two lobes of a heart, so I thought that was sweet. I thought that was really, really sweet. So yeah, the universe loves us. And there are way more hearts in the universe. Refsman, I am so sorry that I freaked you out. My phone normally doesn't ring at this time, so I didn't even think to silence it. No, that was my phone for everybody that was panicking. So yeah, there's some hearts in space. At least we end on a brighter note compared to, you know, spacecraft blowing up and people getting really, really worked up about people sending spacecraft into orbit. So yeah, any more questions? Go ahead and at me in chat so I can see them. Otherwise, you know, we'll just kind of sit here and chill, and I don't know what you all Americans have planned for Valentine's Day, but we're gonna stay in and have steak and lobster tail because everywhere's going to be crowded tonight. Although maybe we'll go out soonish and get fancy drinks from Starbucks, because why not? We can get fancy drinks from Starbucks. And I'm not seeing any more questions come up. Oh, somebody had said, I'm sorry, I missed it because I don't think they were at me. Somebody had said that the R3D2, Larry said that the R3D2 launches on the 27th. I have not yet updated the launch calendar today, so I'm still working on yesterday's launch calendar things. Does anyone know what direction the Iranian satellite was going to orbit? I believe it was destined for low Earth orbit. So, hey, thanks for joining us, Nympho. I believe it was going to go into low Earth orbit, the remote sensing satellite. So, yeah, it would make sense that it's, you know, kind of close to the Earth. Space TV Net asks, where is your launch calendar? Is it public? So, I essentially use rocketlaunch.live. And that's pretty much what I copy. I just copy paste everything into a Google Calendar. I don't always keep it the greatest updated. There's some duplicate things, but I've pretty much settled on rocketlaunch.live as being my source of info. They update pretty much every day. You can sort by latest updates. They will add past launches, like Iran's launch, if they weren't previously announced, which is, you know, essentially how I found out about the Iran launch was, oh, it's there. That wasn't new. Or that wasn't there the other day. But yeah, that's my favorite launch catalog or launch calendar service. Jean Loon says EJ has a chat bot that will list off the next launch listed on that site. Cool. If you mean by that site, you mean rocketlaunch.live. That is very cool. They do have a public API. I haven't gotten around to reprogramming or to programming anything to pull from their API. I used to have a skill on my Alexa, but that stopped updating. So I'm going to have to get rid of that skill. Somebody else made that skill, not me. But yeah, that is literally my favorite source, and it's not my only source. Hanny's asked, is Iran banned from using other countries' rockets for satellites, or do they just want to do things themselves? I think part of it is they want to do things themselves. Another part of it is I don't think anyone is really willing to work with Iran. There are a lot of embargoes. They may not be able to work or do anything with Iran. By they, I mean literally anybody else that can launch satellites into space. I may have to dig into that more. That may or may not be a future deep dive on a daily space. I usually don't cover that day, but I think I will have that handy in case I do ever need to cover that day. We can really get into why is Iran, kind of an island doing their own things when it comes to space. Why aren't they working with like China or India or literally anybody? Why can't they use ESA? It may just be because they want to do things themselves. It may be because of all of the embargoes, etc., etc., etc. Hanny asks, are there any heart-shaped things on Earth? I don't know. I looked for things on other bodies, or essentially anywhere that wasn't Earth. There probably are. Space TV Net asks, are Russia and China prohibited from launching stuff for Iran, and would they care? I don't know. I really don't know. That's why I'm thinking of setting up a deep dive into this topic, because I really don't understand why Iran is essentially reinventing the wheel, and I can only guess that it's due to embargoes, and the US really, really doesn't like it when Iran launches rockets because they're afraid it's, they're working on ICBM technology, which isn't the case here. There are experts that will tell you straight up that it's not the case. Iranian satellite Sina-1 was launched by Russia in 2005. Yeah, that was 14 years ago. Why hasn't Russia launched anything sooner? And that was also right after ISA's formation. I think it took ISA from formation to their first launch. I think it took them 4 years. And they may or may not have used a modified ICBM, which, rockets are rockets. But the rockets we talk about are the ones that go poof, straight up and hopefully don't destroy anything. Meanwhile, ICBMs go whoop, and destroy things, which is not what we're interested in. And I can't read Farsi, so everything I pulled recently, meaning last night, from their Instagram and their official site, is that they're very interested in, or at least they're projecting that they're very interested in peaceful uses for space. So, yeah, they would like stuff into space. Jean Darun says, when the launch pad is painted sea blue in a sea of desert sand, not trying to hide anything. Yeah, and I think they started painting it in, like, late January. So they have not been really secretive about any of these current rocket launches. They said, hey, we're going to launch something, and then they launch them. They don't always give exact launch dates. And we can watch them launch things. So yeah, Hanny asked, doesn't China have a huge radio telescope? Has it been built yet? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm looking for a pen so I can write this down, because that is a question I can totally answer later on, but I don't know what China has. Larry points out that US and Israel wants to go to war with them, meaning them being Iran. Yeah, it's a touchy political situation. Refs Matt points out Iran may be going in-house, so they don't have to work in foreign currencies. Jean Derloon says, yes, they're still finishing up. I'm glad that somebody knows what's going up with that. Radio satellites. Okay. I've duly written it down. It's called FAST. 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope. China launches all the time. They do launch all the time, but they don't live stream their launches, so I don't like co-stream them. And which means we don't really get to see them live. If anybody does catch wind of a live China launch, like a stream of a live China launch, ping me all the places you can find me. Ping me on Slack, ping me on Discord, ping me on Twitter, ping me in all the places that you can, because I will cover it. We've done it once, and I will totally cover it again. I think Asgardia. I don't know. Space TV asks, Annie, what's your opinion of Asgardia? I don't even know what that is, so I can't have an opinion. DPI points out, last year China accounted for about a third of all launches. They really did. Yeah. China launches a lot of stuff, and I'm quite sad that I can't cover their launches. And I don't speak or read Chinese, as in Mandarin or Cantonese. I know one word in Cantonese, and I know one symbol, and that's the symbol for people. I'm thinking. I also know the symbols for like some of the numbers, like up to at least 8, but that doesn't really do much good. I also know the symbols in Cantonese for day, month, and year. CosmoQuest. Hanny asks, how many places do they have to launch from, or do they just have great turnover rates? China? I think China has at least 2 launch things. I'm not sure. So I'm also going to make a note of... I'm making notes right now of things we can do deep dives into later. Weird and Proud says, you know more Chinese than I do. I know those Cantonese symbols for day, month, and year because I spent a couple weeks in Hong Kong, and immersion is literally one of the best ways to learn something. The symbol for people is just like, it looks like an upside down V. That's common, very, very, very common. And the numbers I know are from working with trying to essentially transcribe Chinese sky lore, asterisms into Stellarium, which I haven't worked on for a few years. Because they just label the stars in the asterism by numbers. I had to go and literally match the star number with, like, we have a couple different ways of categorizing what stars are what in the sky, and I had to go match it with one of those numbers. So I have Post-it notes. Actually, I have that book right here. I can show you guys. It may not show up because I have a green screen, but where's one of the pages? Here we go. So I have, yeah, green screen is killing it. But here's my book, and you can see that I have Post-it notes on it. And I think that's, yeah, that's pretty much the one I was working on. But yeah, this book is pretty awesome. It's out of print now. It's called Chinese Ancient Star Map. And it is bi or trilingual. It's in Chinese, probably Cantonese. Let me just set this down somewhere. It's in Cantonese and English. China has 3 sites. Chinese has 3 sites. And he's using scraps from an invisibility cloak for note paper. I know, right? Tinkerbell. You can't have the invisibility cloak, Tinkerbell. Deep dive. Iran and China. Hey, Uncle Bill. Nope, 4 sites. All right. So, Laird Weird and Proud says ancient probably before Buyer. I know I met one of the authors. So I don't know. There are a couple other out-of-print books that I would like to have, but finding out-of-print books on really kind of weird subjects is kind of tricky, so yeah. And my dog is just kind of looking for Cheerios now. Don't start. Don't start. I don't want to hear your opinion on me finding rare books. Yes, Chinese constellations are funny. They have a heap of corpses constellation. Yeah, I think I've seen that one, actually. And the book and the green screen don't get along, so I can't really show you, and I don't have more than one camera set up. So I can't just lay it out on my desk and be like, here's what I'm working on. So, yeah. It just looks like invisibility scraps. So, Frostmat says, I built a set of about 300 Chinese constellations into a database for Starry Night software. That is freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. I don't use Starry Night. I use Stellarium. I talked to people at a planetarium conference about this project, and it was like, oh, this is for Stellarium. Is anybody going to use it? And I was pretty much resoundingly told, yes, people will use it. So, Hanny makes a comment about, it's amazing how every culture has all these constellations. Well, before there was technology and light pollution, there wasn't a whole lot to do at night. So humans like to tell stories. Humans like to be able to tell time. We use the night sky to do both, and I find it fascinating. This is not anything more than a hobby, really. I find it fascinating, and I feel like it's important to capture all of these stories and all of these sky cultures, etc., etc. Yes, it's great we have the standardized 88 constellations, but by standardizing, we also lose things, and we really don't want to lose them completely. Let's, document them, categorize them, put them aside for later. Didn't Chinese invent paper? I don't know. Part of me is like, yeah, sure, they invented paper, but I think paper may have been one of those things, like, that popped up several different times. Because it's relatively easy to kind of do. It's a relatively simple technology, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It may have popped up several times. We may only have record of the Chinese doing it. I don't know. The sky was actually used to affect people's lives. Yes, the Chinese were actually definitely part of the using the sky as not just a way to keep track of history or time, but hey, this thing is going to happen. They tried to use it to tell the future and to tell prophecies and stuff, and I think people actually lost their lives when something didn't turn out right, or when unexpected things happen, like comets, eclipses. Yes, Tinker, people actually died. So Chinese astronomy, like a lot of other astronomies, actually started off as astrology. Alright, I have to toss your Cheerios. They're like, we're not on camera. We're salty about this. So, yeah. There's you think Hanny said, I think Tinker just said supernovas. I think you're right, Hanny. I think you're right. Parallel development is a thing that happens in both biological evolution and, more artificial evolution like languages and technologies and so on and so forth. So, yeah. I'm unfortunately limited by, because some of these collecting sky cultures and stories and so forth, there's also a language barrier there, and I'm unfortunately limited by that language barrier. To do research and things with this book, I'm grateful that it's bilingual, but there are some things where I had to go and actually pull up, Chinese translator, and I know people that speak Cantonese and Mandarin, so I'm fortunate that way to when I do work on, the Chinese asterisms and star lore and things. But yeah, I can't really do a whole lot simply because I don't know the language. And learning new languages is hard, especially when you're not surrounded by that language. And he says, being around you all the time, I'm sure the dogs know more astronomy than most humans. Actually, they really watch me play a lot of video games. But yeah, they probably do know a decent amount of astronomy. And Tinker's like, I'm sitting in the right spot. I will have to add her to Daily Space. So, while I'm thinking of other things, a couple housekeeping notes. Yes, I still owe people mugs and things in the mail. Yes, I am working on it. Yes, I am going to campus tomorrow. Yes, I expect to put some time into that. I have things in boxes, so that's a step forward. I will be streaming Daily Space once a week now. Usually it will be on Wednesdays. Occasionally there may be a Thursday like today. So yeah, we can totally kind of go into our own little deep dive of things on Wednesdays, or save those for when I need to cover a Tuesday. CosmoQuest, or at CosmoQuest, Super Cowboys asked, didn't the Maya sacrifice people to the sun and moon gods? I do not know enough about that to make a comment one way or the other. I do know they used human sacrifices. That's the extent of my recollection off the top of my head. I'd have to do a lot more research. I have visited Chichen Itza, and I know they talked about that stuff, but I don't remember. That was 10 years ago. So, what other housekeeping stuff? Yeah, if I owe you things in the mail, I'm working on getting the things in the mail. I'm going to be streaming once a week. I'm still going to be doing the Sunday things. And yeah, I think that's everything. There are no rocket launches this week. So we'll talk about upcoming missions next Wednesday, because that's a better time to talk about it, rather than talk about them a week early and then be like, I don't know what I'm talking about on Wednesday. So yeah, next Wednesday we'll talk about the upcoming launches and missions and what they'll do and things of that nature. And in the meantime, I think that's everything. I'm going to have to add doggy cam to this, aren't I? I'm totally going to have to add doggy cam. Alright, so in the meantime, I guess I will see you all on Sunday. If you're in the US or you're in a place that celebrates Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day. If you're, not in a place that celebrates Valentine's Day, happy good day to you. I am going to wrap this up and go find favorite human, and we're going to figure out what we're going to do for the day, because he's off today, which is amazing. So, this has been a production of PSI, Planetary Science Institute, in beautiful, sunny Tucson, Arizona, in collaboration with Youngstown State University in kind of icky, dreary, cold Youngstown, Ohio. I'm not bitter. If you missed an episode or you came in late, we archive all of our videos on YouTube at CosmoQuest on our CosmoQuest channel. I'm trying to think. Thank you, DPI. I am so lost without Paranor. I really am. So yeah, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. I will see you all soon. Have a good day. Oh, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow. And one more handful of Make It Rain Cheerios. Here's the Cheerios. Speak. Say thank you. Really? Tinker's sitting. Speak, Puck. Alright, I can't get them to say thank you, but thank you! Make it rain! Alright. And with that, here we go. I think. I'm gonna roll the credits, and then I think I'm gonna try to find somebody to raid. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.